Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the New Earth Love podcast. In this podcast, we are creating trust and understanding between the feminine and the masculine to plant the seed and help the world to create more love and peace. And today I'm here with beautiful Dana. Dana is a mindset coach and empowerment coach for women.
Women and men, I'm kind of like fluctuating right now because I want to support more people and basically help people find freedom within and all round freedom so they can be more alignment with themselves. That is kind of my goal because that's been my journey as well. So I really want to spread that to more people and help as much as I can.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. This is actually the second time we're doing this. The first time, let's say it was a practice. We had actually really great talk, but unfortunately, we were never republished because the recording somehow cut. So I'm checking today sometimes that this is really working. And before we getting into the topic and checking in with each other, I just want to mention that you can subscribe and you can give this a thumbs up. This is really gonna help to reach more people. And of course, if you have any comments around the topic that we're gonna cover, I'm gonna touch on it in a moment. Your contribution is super much appreciated. This is like a social interaction. This is what we're aiming for. This is not just us on the stage, but really like for you to contribute and to interact. And of course, if there's any topics that you would love to have us covered in the future, post that as well. So, usually we start by checking in with each other how we're feeling. Would you like to share a little bit?
Yeah, I'm feeling calm but drowsy at the same time, and we just discussed that because you went to some full moon ceremony, and I guess you're still processing. So I'm an empath, so people's energies do rub off. So I think it's that, but it's like a mellow feeling, like when you've been high and you smoked some weed the day before and the day after. That's how I'm feeling right now.
Oh, well. Yeah, well, in my case, it was not weed, it was just cacao and emotions and full moon. And it's actually funny, like the first time we were recording this, it was Lionsgate, so the 8th of August, I think. Yeah. And today's full moon. Actually, yesterday wasn't full moon, it was a full moon party, but today is the actual full moon. So it's kind of, very interesting how that plays out in a way. And yeah, I'm feeling very happy to be here. It feels super aligned, like a lot of synergy, and like, I'm in the right place. And very curious because we have already talked about the topic we're going to cover today. If something completely new is going to emerge from it, or if it's just going to get more clear. And it's a very important topic. And I'm just very happy to do this again. And thank you for not chickening out, because we've already done it and put so much energy into it. So I'm really appreciating that you're here again.
Yeah, I think there's going to be more clarity around what we already covered, but it's just
Yes.
that I had time to process things, and I think there'll be a lot of new things we'll cover as well. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. So thank you for
Beautiful.
inviting me back.
So the topic of today is gonna be friendship in, let's say, the new earth kind of way, the unity consciousness way, the tribe vibration kind of way. And so I would love to talk about first how that concept of friendship has been evolving for you and for me since childhood friends to here and now, and then transitioning into what is important at this moment of your life, at my life, like just sharing different perspectives of what a friendship means for you and what are the pillars of a friendship.
Sure.
Yes. Would you like to take us a little bit to the past, like what your history is around friendship? What is your idea of it? How did it shift?
Yeah. So in my early life, I used to make really strong bonds with people. I think it was because I was in a place where I felt safe. It was my homeland, and that's where. So I'm from Latvia originally, and my friendships were very strong. But I often had to move around, and I had to adapt and make new friends. So it wasn't always easy for me to connect with new people because it was like, oh, I have to rebuild trust again and I have to feel safe around these people. It's not like some people have the same friends from
Mm.
like childhood and they grow up with them. Like I didn't have that. So I always had to adapt. And I think somewhere down the line, I started trusting people less. So I moved away when I was 11. We moved to Iceland.
Mm.
And that's where that part of me of like craving friendships started being really strong because I was very lonely and alone because I didn't speak the language. So
Mm.
I was often the outcast and rejected. And that's when all the insecurities started coming up and I started questioning my own self-worth and whether I can have good friends. So I didn't really have many friends for like 6 years. And so then it was like rebuilding that. What does friendship mean to me? So I moved away again and I moved to England this time and I really tried to rebuild myself and find myself. And through that, I obviously had people around me, but it still didn't feel aligned. I always craved to get back to what I had in my childhood, those very intimate, strong friendships. And over time, it's been shifting where I had to actually let people go as I grow, let people go as I grow. It's a good say. But yeah, I felt that I was trapped in an environment which wasn't very, like, it wasn't serving me and it wasn't offering me anything in that sense. It was actually holding me back
Mm.
from becoming the best version of me. I do strongly believe that our environment affects everything. And so I had to let people go. It was very difficult for me because I have abandonment issues and I've had them for a long time.
Mm.
So me being the one abandoning people felt very strange, but it was very empowering at the same time because that's when I started realizing this is what I want. And it's only really when I started traveling, well, my coaching journey, I found my tribe and I started traveling and meeting different people. I knew I like, if we don't get on, I don't have to keep talking to you just because, when you're in a small town, you're kind of like, take what you get. I found that I just take what I can get, whoever I could get. But now it's like I'm more selective. I'm being here in Bali now,
Mm.
especially there's so many communities here. So I can actually choose my friends and really think about and reflect, how does that feel in my body? How does that, is this a nurturing friendship? Is this something that I can take forward? So yeah, and I strongly believe there are many layers to friendships as well. And we discussed that last time. It's
Mm.
like with some people you may keep in touch like once a month, with some people more frequent, and it's, you still value those friendships, but they mean different things to you. So yeah,
Mhm.
does that kind of answer that question?
Definitely
Yeah.
a lot, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually talking to a friend yesterday that I catch up with maybe around like once a month. It just kind of happens really naturally that we still stay in touch and sometimes send messages, and then it's like this, hey, we should talk again. Like there's just so much happening in my life, in his life, that we can't just like wait longer because otherwise the call would be super long. We spoke more than 2 hours yesterday, and what I see there is also that this kind of friendship, it has an advantage to other friendships that are like more regular, because I can really see the transition within a month, like how much actually happens in 30 days or roughly 30 days in one moon cycle. And that gives a certain spice, a certain quality into this friendship. And of course, when we meet, there's just a very strong bond, because since we met in Thailand, like I think 8 years ago, for the first time traveling, both of us with our partners at the time, we never stopped being in touch. So he has been through a huge transformation since then, and myself as well, like through many different stages, and always staying in touch and keeping each other posted in completely different bubbles and in completely different paths. So that is very fascinating. I just want to touch on that. Um, well, my journey around friendship, I can really relate to what you said about moving around. Like
Mm.
I grew up in Germany. I stayed in Germany until I was 25. So there was not moving countries and languages. But after my first grade, we moved into a new apartment. And so then I went in the second grade primary school into a class that was already established, and I was the outsider, so to say, and it was hard for me to integrate. And then after primary school, I went to in Germany is after like 4 years. So you start high school at 5th grade, which is very young. I just mentioned that. Yeah, it's pretty unique in the world. And then I think the first 3 years of high school, or 2 or 3 years, I'm not sure, I was in one school, and then this school got closed, so we had to like go again to another school. So there was a lot of that happening for me as well. And I remember always having trouble to really connect with kids of my age. And there's also been quite an amount of bullying, and just not having friends for a long time. And I wasn't, I mean, now that I was working out all this, let's say, emotional side of it later, I can acknowledge, or I did acknowledge a lot of this pain that was there. As a child, I wasn't really able to, so I was just like caving in and creating my own little fantasy world, not really letting anyone in, just building like huge walls around my heart. And I had like one good friend actually as a child that was not in my school, but it was my only friend like for many years. And with 16-ish, it started shifting, that I also found like in other classes and in school, people that I could connect with. But I remember there was always this anxiety of like, oh, they don't really like me. I need to be in a certain way. I need to be entertaining them. So there was a huge amount of people pleasing and stepping into a role, and also hiding certain aspects of myself. So like highlighting certain and hiding other aspects of myself. So really not being authentic in a way, from this fear of like, all these people, they are so amazing, they're gonna leave me anyway if I'm sharing everything with them. So, and to how it is now, there's a huge transformation. So for me, authenticity is one of the main points in a friendship, in any kind of healthy relationship, also with partners. And so that's kind of the rough outline of that. And let's maybe talk about like certain aspects, what is important at this point of your life, of my life. Like, what are the kinds of friendships that you nurture, that you cultivate, that you manifest and bring into your life? And what is the qualities where you say like, hey, this is not really resonating with me? So like, just like understanding your boundaries around all that.
Yeah, so it's really still hard for me to trust somebody immediately. So I do find myself putting a wall up, and I need to see if that person is going to be not good enough, but in a sense, like they're going to be a safe person for me to be open. And I think that's such a important quality for me, is that somebody gives me that time and also sees me for me, I guess, quite quickly on, rather than judging me by, sometimes I've been told I have this like bitch face look, like resting bitch face look. Like, so people maybe like then stay away from me. So yeah, for me it's important that someone gives me that space and time to flourish and open up, and just embraces me, all of my aspects of me, and not just the bright, positive and cheery person that I am as well. But I can also be the depressed sometimes, the sad, and the like I think we all go through these phases, but I maybe sometimes show them too soon, but I want that embraced. So for me, it's important that that person is safe, that person is authentic as well. It's really important. They have to be in their truth. I feel when people lie to me or they pretend to be someone they're not, like I feel it and I sense it, because I'm very sensitive to this growing up, always trying to gauge whether it's safe, whether somebody's safe. And that's also coming from the family union that I was in. I kind of learned that. So my ability to distinguish whether somebody is honest and authentic is really like, and I see through the bullshit. So yeah, it's important for me that they're authentic, that they are safe, that embrace all of me, all parts of me, and also that they have compassion and empathy towards me and others. So important for me that they are compassionate human beings.
Yeah.
Like giving
Many points already.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, like, because I'm super curious about that, like, I think we are both pretty much of a human bullshit detector. And I'm just like curious, like how, if you can elaborate on that, like how do you feel if people are authentic or not?
You can just see it, you know, when someone's smiling with their mouth, but they're not smiling with their eyes, for example. Oh yeah, it's all great. It's all great. For demonstration. Yeah, it's that. And like, if they're not always the same with, like, if they're different with me to how they are with others as well, I can just tell that there's something is off about them. Sometimes it can take a bit longer for me to assess that. Sometimes people are naturally always like cheery and happy, and that's okay. Do you know what I mean? But for me, it's someone that's like, oh, I don't have to pretend to be like always happy and positive, and then when they get home, they put that face down. So for me, it's so important that they are who they are, and I feel that. I can't really explain it. It's like it's a feeling, sometimes sensation, micro expressions. It's so many different factors. And we were talking about like the vibration, how like me and you feel around each other, and you mentioned that your spleen feels safe, you know, this person is safe, and I feel that in my sacral. That's where I feel as a generator in my human design. So yeah, it's just sometimes mostly a feeling, and also what I see and observe, yeah, in their behavior generally.
Yeah, this kind of, I was reflecting now while you were talking, like this way of, are they like, do they keep their aura open or close, or like their face, do they look away or whatever, like depending on what emotion is on display, like in you or in them, and like are they comfortable with all kinds of emotions inside of them and then in you, and that's like kind of the authenticity part. And I also see like in different levels, let's say, of consciousness and awareness, I was also like not able to handle certain emotions, like anger, for instance. I had like really long journey with therapy and yeah, different processes, so that I could reconnect with the fire and with the anger, and see that it's actually a healthy thing to feel anger, like not to be outrageous in someone's face and hurting people. That's not what I'm talking about, but the sensations of anger, to not like suppress them and use that power to understand what my boundaries are as well, right? And so I also see, I don't judge from a moralistic point of view if someone is triggered by my ability for right now, for instance, to express anger when it's there. If people are like scared and shutting down and like putting labels or projections and all that, I don't judge it from a moralistic point of view, but I see like, okay, this is just not matching on a vibrational level, and then it's just not, we're not gonna share that path, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of talking about.
Yeah,
People accepting all of you for all your parts, the anger, the
yeah.
sadness, and also like, you know, we as humans, everybody makes mistakes. And I found in my journey, I met a lot of judgmental people. For some reason, it's like people judge, and I know that I can be judgmental too at times, but to be judged for my mistakes is just does not sit well with me. I want somebody that accepts me for my past, like it's my past, like, but do you care about me as a person? That is something, like, not about what I've done, what I like. Obviously, if I'm a murderer or whatever, well, I've done something bad to you, yeah, but not for something I've done in my own life. It's none of your business in that sense. Like, do you see me? Are you strong enough to see, or is your pride blocking that? So yeah, kind of.
Well, pride is one thing, and I think like people can only see in you what they can see in themselves. So you are just a reflection of what they are able to see in themselves, so it's not even necessarily pride. But yeah,
one of those things has been coming up for me, because recently I lost a friendship over something like of my past mistakes, and it's been very hard on me because I trusted this person and I just dive right in because of the intense connection I felt, which is so rare for me to have that with somebody. And we spent hours talking all the time, no matter where I was in the world, and it was like so nice and healing. And then for that person to just abandon me because they didn't agree with what I have done and what choices I have made in my life, it's like, didn't see that one coming.
Mm,
So
yeah,
yeah,
sorry
it's
for
something
that.
I'm processing this week.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's why I said pride, because that's what I see in this person is pride,
Mm,
and not being afraid of being vulnerable. And I think the two kind of go hand in
mm.
hand.
I don't consider like pride as a negative thing per se. I'm gonna touch on it in a
Yeah.
moment. And also the idea of mistake doesn't make so much sense in my reality anymore. So if you
What do you mean by that? Mistake doesn't make
like the
sense in.
idea of mistake, like I might do something that creates joy and I might do something that creates pain for me or for others. I don't see it as a mistake. I see it as a learning experience.
Mm.
And like if we don't label in good, bad, and right and wrong,
Yeah.
then there cannot be mistakes. There's just learning. And if all emotions are equal, anger, sadness, fear, and joy are all just what they are, and not like joy is the one we're aiming for, right? And all the others, they are just like we need to get rid of them, right? So in that sense, there's not really mistakes in my perception. Just like when there's no right and wrong, there can't be mistakes. There can be something I feel a feeling of regret, which is then a mix maybe of sadness and being angry at myself about something. Um, but again, I would personally choose to see that as a learning curve and not as a mistake. I can still like apologize, like in a way I see how your needs have not been met and how I've even been bulldozing my own needs for respect or whatever it is, but not from a place of like, oh, sorry, I did something wrong, you know.
But
Like,
that's the thing. I didn't
yeah,
do anything wrong to this person.
yeah, yeah,
It was more that I know it was my learning experience, and
yeah,
it's something that I have to live with. But at the same time, I don't understand why the friend would be so affected by that. Someone I considered a friend, friends, I consider friends someone
mm,
that are not so judgmental of your
mm-hmm,
choices.
mm-hmm,
But you always feel like you judge you. For me, I have to walk on eggshells, and I can't be in that kind of friendship union if I have to walk on eggshells because of a fear of like not making
mm,
this learning experience happen. Do you know what I mean? Because we're human. We're gonna make mistakes. I'm
mm,
trying not to say the word mistake, but there's a short version of it. We're all gonna learn in some way, one shape or another. That's what we're here for in this physical form.
mm,
So I believe just that allowing and acceptance of who you
mm-hmm,
truly are is so important. I think that's probably the most important
yeah.
aspect for me in friendships.
I'm also not trying to change your reality
Mm,
or like
no.
to tell you shouldn't say mistake. I'm not into like
Yeah.
should or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But just like for me personally, if I look at that, even like how we educate children in school, it's like um, you learn in that system that I grew up. I learned fear of doing something not the way someone that labeled themselves as superior would appreciate it.
Mm.
So that the trinity of like, okay, the belief system in, so for instance, in school, that there is a right and wrong way to do things, that the person at the front, in this case the teacher, knows what it is, and you get punished if you don't follow that, and you get rewarded if you do follow it, which is another form of actually gaslighting and punishing, because yeah, your authentic truth is not appreciated at all.
Yeah.
It's just
Oh,
about
I agree.
following.
I agree.
So, and in my reality that I'm living in now, any kind of so-called mistake is just a way to learn. Like if I would not
Mm.
make any choices
Mm.
that I then after doing them realize, next time I will do them different, then I wouldn't learn and grow, which is in my understanding the most important thing why we are here, right? To understand more about ourselves and
So what I'm hearing you say is more important for you to own that, right? You own that learning experience because it's yours, right? So that's the
yeah,
difference between owning it and just being like, and caving in. Oh, sorry, I did something wrong. Like we
yeah,
said before.
seeing
So it's the
it,
difference. Like, so is that to do
yeah,
with your growth of who you've become now that you're owning that as a person?
yeah, seeing it rather with humor than seriousness.
Yeah.
So it's not, yeah, because in that old belief system for me it was like, oh, if I did something wrong, or like I just did something that had a consequence that I didn't like, then I will be rejected, rejecting myself, will lose love and all this. So around this, yeah.
Yeah, and it's the people pleasing, right? And I think
Mm,
most people have that growing up in that
mm,
system,
mm,
regular schooling system, and parents. You always try to please the parents, and yeah, so this is the now is the journey of unlearning and actually owning your truth and what is your experience. And that's why, yes, it's painful for me to have to say goodbye to this person, but it feels right in the sense that, okay, I'm accepting it because this person didn't accept me. Whereas before I'd be crying, oh my God, I did this. It's so wrong. I shouldn't have done it. I regret it. And I actually probably dwell on that for years
Blaming
to come and
yourself.
blame myself. I don't blame myself because I did what I knew to do at that time. And if somebody can't accept it, they're just not going to be part of my journey. And that's okay. It's hard. Next, I've learned lessons from that. Maybe not be so trusting with somebody immediately before I assess who they truly are. And I think for me as well in relationships, it's like I always chose to see somebody for the fantasy version of who I wanted them to be rather than who they are, rather than believing in their behavior. So like, no, but they wouldn't do this to me because I'm this and that. Like, what? None of this matters. Like, you see somebody for who they are, and that is a game changer.
So what if I hear to your at your story, listen to your story, it's like the way you show up here would be my definition of integrity, pride, and dignity from your point of view, and what that other person, whatever happened there, sounds more like a projection, like not what I would call pride, but more like them being triggered and projecting it onto you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
Definitely.
more like that.
100%, and I feel that, and I know that, but there's nothing I can do about it. I can't change their projection.
My word for that wouldn't be pride, because I worked on my own pride as a positive quality, let's say. My word for that would be self-righteousness.
Yeah, well, yeah, I meant more pride's like not owning what the triggers in yourself to express that. So too much pride is the generalization for like, what is it that they're not expressing. That's what I meant more. But yeah,
I'm working a lot like with duality, like polarity, like plus minus black white spectrum, to understand reality. So for me there is self-responsibility on one side and self-righteousness on the other side. Like when people are not seeing that they are triggered and they're just blotting it out at you, blaming, shaming, guilt tripping, and all this.
And those are the friendships I had in the past. And I was speaking to me and my ex still stay in touch, and I was speaking to him about like just friendships and how, you know, over time I've had a lot of this abandonment and a lot of this shaming and betrayal, and I can only believe that it's a vibrational thing because of like where I grew up and things like that. And he pointed something out. He said, I've never had that. And I was like, oh my God. It's like, okay, what is that? Where am I not? What have I not grown into? I mean, this was a friendship from like 4 years ago. So I believe right now is the time where I'm shedding the old skin and everything that's not serving me, and the people that are sticking around are the people worth having. Because right now I don't have that with people I met since I started traveling. So I don't have that with those people. So it's like the snake sheds its skin, right? So that's what I can only see it as. So it's a beautiful thing. I'm already on the way, but it's how can I really make sure that the right people are the right people for me? So I'm still figuring that out. I'll be honest. Beautiful. Like I can't say that I've reached that destination yet, but I think I'm on the path.
Yeah, maybe this talk will also get both of us more clarity. And it's funny that you mentioned snake. Today on my morning walk, I saw a snake, like a dead one, laying on the.
Big one. How big?
Not super big, like average size snake for Bali, let's say, but noticeable. Like probably a dog killed it or something. Yeah, I didn't look it up what it means. Yeah,
a dead snake. Probably snake. Just a dead snake.
Probably just a dead snake. What is the meaning here? Dead snake on a full moon. So just going back to what is important in friendship for you, for me at this moment. So what you touched on is the point of emotional safety. So that any emotion, no matter if challenging or pleasant, it can be explored and expressed by you, by that other person. And another point that is very connected with that. Actually, all the points that are coming to me now, they're all connected, but is free speech. I think we touched on that also last time.
Expression, yeah.
Yeah, freedom of expression, that I can actually understand myself much better if I'm not just in my head or writing things in my journal, but if I'm actually able to speak into that echo chamber of the presence of another person and be received for that, and just for someone witnessing what I'm saying, realizing like, yeah, this is really true for me, and feeling this like expansion sensation in that. And that's something really important for me too, that I don't have to like put mind energy or brain power into like, oh, what is the things that I can say and what
Yeah.
can I not say, which is again also touching again on the other point of self-responsibility, right? So if a person is really in that moment not comfortable with a topic, then they can set a boundary. But it's not my responsibility to consider, okay, can I speak about that snake, for instance, or not? Yeah.
No, I agree. And I think it's also a way to connect with somebody on a deeper level.
Yeah.
So, it's nice to connect just generally as soon as you meet somebody like me and you did. And then on my birthday, we went for dinner and like
Mm.
there were a few triggers, right? But I think through that, we're able to connect and understand each other better
Mm-hmm.
because we're expressing ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
because we're not hiding
Mm-hmm.
all the things that we might think, oh, maybe this will trigger someone, but I'll
Mm.
say it anyway. Like I'm like that. I just say whatever comes out, and it's not always been accepted. And we covered that last time. Like I
Mm.
lived in Iceland and in Latvia, it's a very rigid way of who
Yeah.
you can be and how you can be. And then I went to England and I thought, oh, everyone's like a free spirit here because everyone's just weird, weird, because it was different. You would be allowed to be gay, you were allowed to be goth, and I didn't see those people before. Like it wasn't in
Mm.
my field. Only seen that on TV. So yeah, and when I said, okay, great, I can be my fullest expression. I can say what. No, that wasn't always taken. In the best way because people there are normally more sensitive in
Mm.
that culture. So whereas I come from a place, from a country that yes, I couldn't be fully myself, but we are allowed to be direct. This is what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Might trigger someone they not might never talk to you, and they might be like a lot of lower vibration, exchange after that. But people still were direct. Do you know what I mean? Whereas coming traveling, people are more accepting because they've done the work on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're grown. And that is the difference. I think now the people that I want to connect with are more people who have done the work. People who haven't done the work, they are going to be triggered and they're going to project, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, yeah.
I'm just gonna sometimes check on the camera. I can notice a certain distraction because last time we had like this super deep engaged conversation and then it just cut off. So like for the sake of having actually a recording, I'm like a little bit back and forth with the camera here. Um, yeah. So yeah, the cultural background and like the surrounding, that is something really important as well, right? Like certain cultures have like in the mainstream, right? There's always people and people, but like certain cultures have like rather superficial way of connecting. Other cultures, for instance, in Germany, or if you go even more up north, like to Scandinavian culture, it's more like cold and a little bit more distant.
Mm-hmm.
Touch is not really a thing. Like
Yeah.
dancing and expressing is not really a thing. While in Spain, where I used to live, for instance, people are very touchy and very, very expressive and very loud as well, right? So there's also like, what is this surrounding that say that is really matching your frequency
Mm.
at this moment of your life? What is resonating with you?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, another, or like, yeah, wait, I wanted to go back to that, let's say, conflict or disagreement energy. I think this is a very important one also to cover for any kind of relationship, friendship, or partnership. That I celebrate conflict
Yeah.
because it means that when you're going deeper with a person, this is why the conflict could emerge, because you're actually brave enough to dive deeper. So it means either you realize that on that deeper level you need to like separate your paths because it's just really not aligned, I had that with a friend in or ex-friend in Tenerife, where we realized like, oh wow, like our baseline of friendship is really different. So it was a very caring conversation, but since then we didn't speak, and it just kind of faded away, and I'm super okay with that. It's like it was something around the area of support, and her idea was like that in a friendship you should only show up when you're like completely fine, and if you're not feeling well, then you should go to the cave kind of and do your own process. And she was like just very open and transparent around it, and I was, thank you so much for like telling me that this is really not working for me, right?
Well, at least you had the
And
lovely
yeah, and I'm really okay if this is
separation.
if this is the way you like to do friendship. I totally respect that. It's just not what resonates for me at this moment of my life. So um well, that means it's just not matching in that sense. And I'm really like more and more okay to let people go. Uh, and it's beautiful how quickly we actually connected, for instance, because we are both like creating space so that other people really matching can come into the space, right?
Yeah, I think is that instant trust, and also it's because we both have a mutual friend, and we could trust that friend to have a good judgment, right? And then it's like, okay, it's safe to connect. And yeah, but I just wanted to touch on that differences, and there's actually interesting game in authentic relating that I love. Authentic relating, for any of those of you who don't know what it is, it's basically how can you learn to be better in relationships with others and with yourself and in connection. And there's a game that we play, and it's called find differences in somebody and like commonalities and differences. So you spend like 5 minutes with that person to learn all about who they are, like what commonalities do you have, what things do you have in common. And then straight away, because we're not used to asking people, what is it that you know, what is it that you don't agree with, what is it that triggers you, whatever, to look for these differences. So then we spend time to find those. And then it's like, okay, is this working for me? when I did that for the first time, there was a lady that we were connecting so great on our commonalities, and then she said something. She was like, well, I am very like vengeful, like I want to take revenge on people, and I can't. And she got so angry, and I was like, and I started getting fearful. You know, you're not supposed to react, like you're supposed to welcome everything. But it just like kind of it hit me like that fear, because I got triggered in that moment, because I have attracted certain people that are aggressive and like, I don't know, they're bipolar or something, but they would snap at me out of nowhere, and it was scary. So that fear all came back, and I was like, right, there's probably a reason why we are connecting with magnets right now. It's still probably in my frequency somewhere, but I don't want that anymore. Thank you for sharing. But it's like the ability to actually know that and discern that really quickly on. Like, I think if people had these discussions early on, life would be better for them, because they'll be able to know, is this person for me or not, and like just quicker shift into that reality that they want to manifest.
Something that comes up here is like negotiable differences and non-negotiable differences. So until a certain degree, I think it's really important to also acknowledge like some things that you like, that I like, they might be different. And again, until like, depending on where it is and within my boundaries, like I can get triggered because being in your presence and you incorporating a certain personality trait, creates fear, for instance, in me, that I fall into something that I don't want to be anymore. So then it's like I can just like either say, okay, this is too overwhelming for me, but I see that I can work on this. Or maybe it's just something where I'm like, yeah, but I really, no matter how much I work on myself, I just like, for instance, a racist person who's like openly racist about other people, right? So of course I would be triggered by that, but I would never like say like, okay, I need to do more work here in accepting. It's just like, okay, ultimately I just really don't choose to be with that person.
Yeah, of course.
And with other things, for instance, I used to be super like triggered by the color yellow, because I had like a blockage in my third chakra actually, and I would like really react with disgust to the color yellow. And there was a friend of mine who was wearing like yellow dresses a lot, and I was really like, oh my god, like it was
Can't be around you anymore.
it
So
was it was literally hard to be in her presence because it created a certain form of disgust, but it was a disgust to myself, something I was rejecting and neglecting, and not to her. So I could like through that work on that, right? Because it's in a way it's kind of ridiculous, right, to be uncomfortable or triggered just because someone is wearing a certain color. So there's definitely something to investigate here. And then, like in comparison to a racist person, right? Racist or like another person who's just wearing yellow.
oh yeah.
So that's where I see like, okay, is there a resistance that I want to work on, or is there resistance just because it's generally not in my boundaries?
Well, yeah, it's like, who is this person generally?
Yeah.
Because I do believe like racism and like being a rapist or murderer does kind of define you then at this point. Um, is this a person that's going to bring you, uplift you, or bring you down? Bring you down, obviously. But I do believe if you genuinely connect with somebody on a strong level and there are certain aspects that you don't agree with, I think it's okay to continue and see where things go. I mean, yeah, I was triggered by that fear and of being abused. But I think for me, what it is, it's like not having strong enough boundaries and not speaking up for myself and not standing up for
Mm-hmm.
myself. So that just means, okay, well, maybe I wasn't strong enough at that time to handle that person, but maybe if that kind of person came into my field now, maybe let's see,
Mm-hmm.
can I stay in my frame and be like, no, you do not speak to me like that. Do not, do you know what I mean? And then still walk away or whatever
Mm-hmm.
if it comes to that. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that it necessarily would come to that, but yeah, I think it's acceptance we all seek. And I think if we suddenly start rejecting people for like minor differences, then
Mm-hmm.
we're essentially also rejecting ourselves, and we want to be accepted for who we are. So
Mm-hmm.
can we accept people for some of their darkness as well? Is really
Yeah.
the question.
Especially speaking of like accepting all emotions, right? And that person you mentioned seems to be very connected with her anger or his anger, I don't know the gender. And so in that moment where you're reacting with fear and not able to accept that, it kind of indicates your own blockage around the sensation of anger or the emotion of anger, right,
Yeah,
inside of
of
you.
course. So just I'm
Yeah.
just so done with like being
Yeah.
constantly in fear, like living, what if this person suddenly attacks me, or like what if this person's crazy in some
Mm-hmm.
way? I have attracted a few psychos, I would say. I know it's
Mm-hmm.
a
Mm-hmm.
label, but that's the only label I can label them. So yeah, it's interesting. I don't attract these people generally here, like
Mm-hmm.
people that I spend time with here, which is nice, and that shows me my progress and how much and how far I have come myself, which is beautiful. So yeah, it's sometimes hard to see how far you've come until you start looking backward and
Mm-hmm.
seeing your patterns and things you managed to shift. And yeah, it's beautiful. And I'm still learning. Like I said, I'm still on the path and on the journey. And hopefully, more I step into my own power and my own self expression, I will attract people that are even in more alignment, people who have done the work, because I am always growing. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe if you're not growing, you're dying. So the people I want to attract are the people that are growing. So yeah.
That's the next point actually on the list, I would say. I was about to transition to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like a growth mindset is like, let's say everyone is growing, right? But if you're growing like fast and this, yeah, maybe you start a friendship on a similar level and then you're evolving, growing, and this other person just also without a judgment, right, chooses to evolve in a slower pace, which is then totally their path, then it's also not matching on a certain frequency because or in a certain distance, because you're gonna feel held back by that person. This person is gonna feel pushed and pulled
Yeah.
by you, right? So that's something I discovered also for me in friendship. That, for instance, this friend that I was calling yesterday, we're catching up once a month, and there's like at least 1 hour each of us, new things happening that we can share with each other. So it's never actually happening that one of us is like, all right, thank you for sharing. For me, everything stayed exactly the same as it was a month ago, right? So just like I feel expansion. I feel joy when I surround myself with people who are in a growth mindset as well.
Yeah. There's a difference between someone wallowing and being sad and not moving forward, but they want to. I think everyone has that desire to grow.
Mm-hmm.
I strongly
Mm-hmm.
believe just some people can't find courage in themselves to do that. And yeah, like, are these the people you want to be around and surrounded with if they not courageous? So obviously they're matching your frequency. You know, you're someone that's really a go-getter, knowing you. Like, I see that, and you're always exploring and
Mm.
taking any opportunities that come your way. Whereas if somebody that is in your field doesn't do the same, do
Mm.
you really, are you going to stay in that energy?
Mm.
I don't personally see that for you. I
Mm.
don't see that for myself either.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah, growth mindset, super, super, super important. Like inspiring each other, and also through that, like with Fari, for instance, I have that like all the time, that I'm just like speaking freely, and she's mirroring me things, just like from that non-judgmental space where I'm like, oh wow, like really, uh, thank you for helping me to see it in that way, that I had like some rejection here, and you actually came to a point already where you don't reject it in yourself, so you don't reject it in me. And then maybe there's something else where I feel like super welcoming and she's rejecting herself, right? So, and then helping each other to understand, no, it's all okay, like there's no judgment here, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to choose to judge yourself. um,
Mm.
Another thing I would like to touch on is touch. So for me personally, we are a bit different there, I think, but for me personally, touch is a very important part of friendship too. Just like acknowledging that again for myself. Um, like if I only, like talk to a person and there's like no touch at all, not even a hug for saying hi, or like if someone is an emotion, like maybe touching the knee or whatever it is, um, I feel that there's a barrier, that there's a wall a little bit there.
What are you saying?
Mm, I don't actually feel that with you, to be honest.
Oh,
I
really?
feel, I mean, like right now we're actually too far away even to touch each other, but I feel like in some ways we have that kind of relationship already, where you already stretched your boundaries, and for me it's like, yeah, I also I cuddle with my friends, I hug them and give them massage and whatever. It's just like a way to express my love and to receive love as well. So for me, in a deep friendship, touch is definitely a very important part. Just
Mm.
like for my
Yeah.
personal journey.
I guess it was never in my field,
Mm.
so it's like new to me, and there's only you that's
Mm.
introducing me to it. I'm like, oh, feels weird, but I think it's like with anything that I've not been in contact with, it's the unknown. It's like, oh, what does this mean? Because to me, like when you
Mm.
touch someone, is more like in a relationship. Like that is my definition,
Mm-hmm.
and but I'm accepting of people are different. You know, that for me is not a deal breaker that you like to be
Mm-hmm.
touchy.
Yeah.
Like maybe I won't go as far as like, I don't know, cuddling with a friend. I
Yeah.
think that's a bit like, I don't know how close cuddling. What does that even mean to you, to be honest? But like, I don't know, like spooning. Like that's probably a bit weird with a friend for me personally.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, for me, it's not something that I require. I think people that I've been around never require that, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay with that. I guess it's one of the things I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay with. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, well, I can totally accept that, and since I know that you have more of a discomfort or like a learning curve there, let's say, like where we are a bit different, I will always check in with your boundaries, and not just like that. Like with any person I meet, I'm not just like touching them all over and then creating like a disbalance there, right? That's not what I'm saying, but just like for me, it's a very important part of friendship in general, that some kind of touch, like caring touch, platonic touch, let's say, loving and caring energy, is part of that. Like if it's just talking, I used to have relationships, friendships where there was no touch at all, and I feel I'm like rather cold and academic at this point.
Okay.
Academic relationships, I call
Interesting.
it. Yeah, yeah.
We're learning about each other more. I like that. Yeah, I didn't realize how big of a part that played in your
Yeah, yeah,
life.
yeah. It's really something I'm
Yeah.
discovering more and more.
Mm.
Um, and for me, let's say because I'm heterosexual, so for me the boundary there is, what would I as well do with a male friend? right? In terms of touch, what would I feel comfortable like just with any human being that I feel close connection with, and what is more like aiming towards like romantic space. And I'm like, I might be a bit of a unicorn there, but for me it's very easy to distinguish between sensual and sexual energy, and like platonic touch, and like building up some kind of sexual tension. That's like, for me it's very easy to feel into the energetics of that, and also communicate that clearly, right? Like when meeting a new person, especially if it's a female, I'm just very clear, like, hey, I'm not looking for like dating at this moment, for instance. I'm just here to connect, and for me touch is very important. How do you feel about that? So I just bring it up, so that that doesn't have to be like any guessing or games and all that. So basically what we do with this podcast as well, right? So to create clarity, understanding, and trust by actually showing up vulnerably, and also being okay with a no, of course, right? Like that's really something that enables authenticity, to be okay to say no, and to be okay to receive a no, and receive that with love, that it's not a rejection of me as a person, but like, okay, there's just not a match with that certain request, and that's okay.
Can I ask what the need for that touch is? Because you never really explained that, I don't think.
The need for touch is
Yeah.
just a need for touch.
Where does it come from? There's nothing is just, nothing just happens.
All right.
Like,
So in the, if you look at needs, at basic human needs, if you look at monkeys, for instance, how they interact, actually babies die if you don't touch them.
Right.
It's really like a need, like food and water, and that's something I didn't have sufficiently in my childhood.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So there might be a stronger need maybe than I have in 10 years when this is more fulfilled. But I believe it's also just a love language for me personally, that it's like some people are more touchy than others. Yeah.
But it's interesting what you said about because it wasn't fulfilled in the childhood, and
Yeah.
because for me, like I can just survive without the need to touch and connect with my friends.
I can survive. I can
Yeah.
definitely survive. It's not yeah.
Like it doesn't add anything to my life, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but
I can touch myself. I can nurture myself in that sense. So when I'm, of course, when I'm traveling and then don't know anyone closely, then I need to somehow manage to survive, right? And without touching people. But just, yeah, for me it feels very comforting. It feels home. It feels like family, like community, like someone actually cares.
it's interesting. I used to really despise hugs. I was like,
Uh-huh.
I don't understand why people are hugging all the time. I can't remember where it was. I think it was when I moved to England.
Yeah.
I don't think it was even a thing, and not in my country. Certainly, it wasn't really a thing in Iceland. So when and everyone's like hugging, I'm like, why are you hugging me? Like that's so weird. And it's like, and I feel like that was so fake from me to force a hug out. I didn't feel like hugging these strangers or people I knew. It's like, why are we hugging? Can't we just say hello? Just because it wasn't in my field, it wasn't normal. So I think it's like whatever you've grown up with as well, and patterns you have formed. And then now for me, it's natural to hug people and friends, and like it's just so natural. Maybe it's like learned behavior. I don't know. I don't know if there is a need for it, or is it just learned for me? I don't know. I haven't really thought about it that deep.
I guess there's a mix of like learned behavior and preference and conditioning, and it's all a big mix. Like for me, for instance, like maintaining eye contact. We have been speaking about that as well, right? Like
You love like
in the beginning when we started connecting, you were like a bit weirded out by that, let's say.
But it's also, I think it's, and it comes from self-confidence. For me, it is the self-worth and self-confidence. It's not being able to look into people's eyes.
Yeah.
I don't even think about it. Sometimes I just don't. It's like when you bring my awareness to like, let's stare into each other's eyes. Now I'm looking. I don't know if I've been looking into your eyes this whole time. I don't know. Sometimes I fake that I'm looking into someone's eyes. I'll be honest. I don't know. Yeah, again, I think it's just trust for me is a big one. Trusting.
Yeah.
The safe space that you have created for me as well.
Thank you.
And also, I know that that's your need and want, so I want to meet that and match that as a friend, not like something I have to force myself to do, but like respect. I think it's a respect thing, and I think if it's important that your friends respect.
I obviously don't want you to force anything or do something for me. Yeah.
No, but like it's a respect. I do believe, like as a friend, there are things that you want to do, but also like, how can I respect this person? How can I make them feel also like, because I care about them, how can I make them feel like I care about them? What is it that I want? And I think it's important in relationships as well. Everyone has a different love language. Yours, it's touch, yeah, and
One
that
of
might
them.
be your primarily one. My love language is affection, in a like more attention, like a Leo, right? I love extravagant gifts. To me, that is like, you care about me. Like, that is my love language. I don't know if it comes across materialistic. I don't really care, but that is what my need is. So I want, to be surprised with a cute gift. Like, even it doesn't have to be like expensive, but just surprises. I love surprises. That's my, because I will surprise you. I love surprising people. So if you care about me, I know you have this love language, and you love me. You say you love me. Can you show me that you love me through something that I've asked, that I want? I think that's so important to
Thank you
express what you want.
for giving me that. So I'm very glad that intuitively I gave you this little present for your birthday now.
Yeah, and this, do you know what? That means so much to me, more than any like money someone's given me. I mean, if money was going towards something, that also meant something, but this, yeah, meant so much. So yeah, thank
So
you.
gifts are your love language. I acknowledge that, and I will keep it in mind. Yeah, thanks for letting me know. And yeah, about the last thing I want to touch on around the touch. Like, for instance, yesterday on that full moon event, there was like maybe 2 or 3 people that I knew before, and the rest were complete strangers. It was a group of 20, maybe 20, 30 people. And it was such a hard, open vibration there. Like, so many amazing people where I felt like I meet them and I just look at them. We don't even have to exchange names, just like looking at each other for like a couple of seconds and smiling and just like offering a hug. And it came really like from heart, and not like as a pretending of like, oh yeah, I just need touch, but just like a general sense of connection with the consciousness that I see reflected in these eyes, that I am as well myself, right? So how, like, for me, but I have done also quite a lot of like authentic relating and tantra and biodanza and like different modalities where you really don't speak so much, but you find other ways of connecting um, on the soul level, let's say. And I find that more and more taking over in my life, that I can really be with a person, uh, and I feel like, for instance, we are in an elevator and we're just like having a conversation, like, where are you from, where am I from, yeah, okay, cool. Or we're just standing there like holding hands and like inhaling 3 times together, looking at each other's eyes, like, where I see like a stronger connection on the heart level, which is what I'm actually aiming for mainly, is then that direct connection where words are not really needed and they can come later. So yeah, it's just a different approach to relating, I guess. Yeah.
And I think also what's beautiful about friendships, I think we all need connections in order to grow personally. I think we need them, and we actually do need to embrace differences in something like someone's weakness, as however you want to see weakness, or something that they haven't considered before. Like, let's say for me, I haven't really considered how important it is for me to look into their eyes, or the touch, or whatever. And like, I will grow through that. I think, as long as it's for my greater good and for humanity's greater good, it's a positive thing. So that kind of connection with you, for example, it's showing me something else. And also us discussing different love languages is learning about the different needs that somebody has. And maybe somebody hasn't really pointed that out to you before. I don't know, but like, what I'm saying is like, this is why we need each other, is to learn and grow in that positive direction. Obviously, we can feel, is this something that the area I want to grow into or not? And again, that will come down to, is this person in alignment with you or not? So that's my interpretation of that. But yeah, we need connection, I think. We all need connection.
Shall we transition to another point of like what's like another pillar that makes friendship for me is reliability and consistency. Like, just if a person, I had that recently actually with a person I met here, that when I was meeting her, she was like really nice and caring, and I felt like a nice connection, but then disappearing out of nowhere, not reacting to messages anymore, and kind of like a ghosting energy in a way. And I was like mentioning that, like when she was reaching out to me again, I was like, hey, just checking in because we're like starting to build a friendship here. Like for me, it's really important that there's reliability and consistency, and really wanting to, especially when you're living in the same place, right? Wanting to be part of each other's life in a certain way. Like, how do you feel about that? Again, also like not from a way of you should, or this is the right or the wrong way, but this is what is true for me, like what works for me as a person. So um, yeah, that I can count on friends. That like I just love to take care of my friends, like really taking care, like even on a daily basis for some of them, that they're doing well, and if they need me, I'm there. And I want to have that same thing back also, just like what I choose to deserve myself. So um yeah, like having a tribe, having a group of close people who really are there for me in any circumstances. If I break a leg, they bring me to hospital, for instance,
Well,
and
yeah, I
things
think
like that.
otherwise, are they really friends if they can't do that for you? You know, especially if you make friends in the location you're in, and if
Mm,
they can't be that for you, what do you need them for? And that's how I see it as well. It's like we were talking about this last time about give and
mm,
take, and how important it is for that person
mm,
and the friend is to be giving as well, because we know we are giving people as well. So yeah, it's I get that. I get that. And reliability. I'm just curious, what does reliability mean to you when you say that, other than be
let's
there?
say that action, or like that words and action are aligned, because there is for instance, let's take Spain, right? Because I lived there for 7 years. People are like super excited, and for instance, you invite them and I say, yeah, I'm gonna come for sure, it sounds amazing. And I learned to check in on the very same day. Maybe you make a date for like in 3 days, and then you check in that very same day, and like, no, sorry, I went to my mom's birthday or whatever like that. So there, it's just a way of communication that is not working for me. Like if someone is just like always excited and yes, let's do that for sure, but then they don't show up. Like for instance, today, like we set up this date for recording. I don't know how long ago, maybe a week ago, and we both put it down on the agenda. And you checking in with me, like, yeah, we're still on, right? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And then it's happening. So this is kind of what reliability means for me. It's maybe also the German mindset that is a bit there in the back of my mind. Like I think it's kind of unique
Yeah.
in Germany, but that really you set a date and a time, and people actually show up even like a little bit before that, and you don't have to triple check. And internationally, what I found, like I lived in many different places, and I traveled maybe 40 countries around the world. So it is not very mm, common, let's say, that way. Like there's many places where it's more like mañana mañana, let's see how things flow,
Yeah.
and that's totally fine if that works for someone. But I like accountability, I like reliability, I like punctuality, I like people to show up for themselves mainly.
Something's coming up,
Yeah.
and as you speak about it, and I totally agree. I've always had that mindset of, if we agree on something, like I expect you to be there. That is just who I've been always. Until coming here, I find everyone's like a free spirit and they're honoring whatever is coming up for them.
Mm,
And I feel a lot of the times here with people, you make some plans and then suddenly they're like, oh, sorry, I'm not feeling it today. And that just triggers me
mm,
so much. And I think because I have received that so much here, I am becoming a bit more careless about it. I'm like, well,
mm,
why, if they don't care, why should I care? And
mm,
I don't know if that's growing towards like a more, like if it's positive growth in the sense that I'm flowing more and embracing and honoring myself, or if it's just actually going backwards and being more unreliable,
mm,
things like that. Like I apologize, yesterday I was supposed to be at the thing, but I'm just not good at organizing my life,
mhm,
so it wasn't in my diary. I had already agreed to make other plans before
mhm,
that,
mhm,
so, and I felt so awful, and I was like, oh my god, canceling on you, we've agreed that. I communicated that, but the guilt was there because it's just not who I am. And I know that's like,
mm,
I don't, for me, I don't think it's a positive growth, like just always
mm,
flowing. I think
mm,
if we're making plans, I want to be there, and I also expect the other person to be there. Yeah, I think that's so important.
mhm.
And yeah. I mean, even like, I don't know, when does it mean that we made plans sometimes here? Is it because we said definitely gonna be there, or is it, oh yeah, I might come? So
Yeah,
I'm finding it really difficult to distinguish that here. And
yeah.
I think it's between us. Maybe that has been the dynamic that I've been feeling. Sometimes is the flowing, and then it's like, okay, well, since we're all flowing, I feel like I can flow too.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh, but I'm not honoring myself.
Yeah, it's also a form of like prioritizing, right? So I'm also not gonna lie here. I was triggered by you
I know.
canceling
I could
yesterday.
tell.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the okay dot.
No, no, it's just. But this came also from a place of like, um, yeah, I want to serve, and I've been like putting energy and time into like preparing this and making it available and carving out time to make this happen, and then like from like 7 people who were interested, 2 were showing up, and 1 had to leave early. So that was it
So
is just like there was a frustration there, but then there's also a little bit of a projector and pain there of like, I like I need the invitation, so I'm not like a manifesto to bring people together and like, yeah, let's make this happen. I don't have that energy. So okay, again, like I have so much to offer and people don't care and getting into my own story. Um, but it didn't happen often with you yet that we agreed on something and you either don't show up at all or cancel last minute or stuff like that.
I mean, no, I don't think I've done it. I think it's
No, and that's really okay. Like for like plans can change, and I never want someone to force themselves to be with me, right?
I genuinely
So
like really wanted to be there, but just because I had to honor the first
yeah,
person that I said yes to, and
again,
that's
it's
like part of me, like, and that's like, I know then that's like hurting somebody or letting somebody down. And it's like,
mm,
who was the first person I agreed it
yeah,
with?
yeah.
Yeah.
So again, there's also like the amount, like how often does that happen, right? And there's just like people who constantly cancel, and constantly there's something else where I'm like, okay, I don't want you to force yourself, but can I really trust you? Can you trust yourself? Like when you say yes to something, how much are you aware that this is really what you want, what you need, so that we can kind of count on that. And like if sometimes you wake up and like, oh, I'm feeling like really bad today, I just can't come. I'm the last person who will not understand that, right? But it's some people that I've encountered in the past where when I was even like a past relationship, yeah, where when we were together it was amazing, but the reliability, the accountability, and the things actually happening the way they were like planned was like so little that I just had to stop this connection because the amount of like flexibility was just for my personal need way too much.
Yeah, I think then starts, well, I personally go into questioning how much a person cares about me. For example,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, do you really care about me that you
Mm-hmm.
don't show up, but you don't want to do these things with me? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I get that. And then that can put you in a negative spiral. And yes, it's not about like external influences and them throwing you off your center, but at the same time is like, is it really a positive
Mm-hmm.
environment which we're talking about to be stuck in? And I definitely I'm learn from yesterday and just generally in the last week is that I need to be more organized and actually keep a diary. I think that's been a strong message and more discipline in my life, so it's actually positive growth for me. So I do apologize for it yesterday.
Good.
And yeah, I genuinely mean it, because like I also really really require reliability. And like, yeah, I like making plans with people and
Mm-hmm.
people honoring that.
I just want to take that opportunity to check the video and at the same time speak to the camera that all these things that we are speaking about here, they really come from a place of that is true for me, that is true for you. They don't have to be generalized. This is hopefully helping some of you, many of you, to elaborate, is that true for me? Or do I, for instance, the last thing we shared, like, is this true for me or do I like more flexibility? Where there's again, there is no right and wrong and good or bad. It's just like what works for me and just like speaking into that space. So again, the invitation, there is a comment section here, no matter if you listen on YouTube or Spotify. And please share what is true for you. Is there points that we're not covering here that are really missing? I would love to hear that because I love to learn and I love to interact and really make this the most growth full experience for everyone. So just wanted to mention that point, that it's really not about finding like this is the general truth. I used to be like that. I used to be a mathematician, right, where it's all about what is true and what is not true. And I could also identify on my personal journey that this obsession with mathematics and the purity of it came from a need of control and from a need of wanting to be perfect, to be lovable subconsciously, right? Like if I figure out the equation of how to be the perfect person, then I finally will be loved. So I'm really past that stage, and I'm now at the point where I'm like, oh, okay, this works for you. I can really see that it works for you. I really don't like it, but this is what works for me, and just like with respect and with love. And if there is synchronicity and an overlap of needs and strategies and wants, then amazing, let's celebrate together, right? I was, for instance, recently realizing that I have not really any musician friends here, and music, like playing music, is a very important part of my life since I'm 7 years old. And then I was like bringing it out to the universe, and like, okay, I was writing in certain groups, like, yeah, can we like do organize a jam session? Actually, today at 4 p.m. Right now it's the morning. Today at 4 p.m. there is a jam session that kind of happened as a ripple effect of that. And yesterday in that full moon there was jam session as well. And actually, a person that I invited to that event was reaching out to me after I posted in that group that we can just meet the two of us and play together. So also just like acknowledging like, oh wow, like certain areas of my life are really satisfied with the friends I have, and wow, that musician aspect of me is really like has been abandoned for a while, and I really want to nurture that more. So taking also self-responsibility and a word that I call self-dependence. Like I'm depending on myself and on understanding what my needs are, and that might involve other people, and then I communicate that need, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything. It's like, we're always growing, and we're always going to discover something about ourselves that's new. It's like, okay, this is what I want now. This is maybe something you didn't notice in a friendship before. And suddenly, as you get triggered maybe by somebody, whatever, and you need more of something else, you discover, okay, this is what I need from the next friendship, and the next one, the next one. And this is the beauty of life. I think the fact that there are so many people in the world, and so many people are going to bring us gifts to grow in certain aspects of ourselves and become the better versions of ourselves, because I think that's what we're here for, right? To become better versions of ourselves. So yeah, honoring that and embrace whatever is coming up for you in the moment.
Is there any other aspects, if you feel into like what we have been speaking about, connecting with like around friendship, where you feel like, this really hasn't been covered yet?
I think reliability is probably the same as loyalty. So yeah, loyalty. How loyal is that friend to you? And I think it's also like people who are up for anything, like me, like adventurous side, and like always that I think that's part of the growth anyway. But it's like people who are excited to explore something they haven't done before, and excited to do that with me. Those are the kind of people I want more in my life now, to actually go on adventures with and do things with. So I think that's going to be the next thing I seek in a friendship, is that common ground of adventurers. Adventurers, yes.
Trying new things together, exploring together. Yeah, I like that. For me, would be part of the growth mindset, that you can also grow together.
It's probably all the same. I don't think there's anything else to add right now as it stands. And then maybe in a year's time.
I guess also we are kind of around 1 hour now recording. I feel we can pick a card and close slowly. What's your intention
for
the card? Something to wrap it up, or something personal?
To invite more positive friendships into my life, and to maintain them. I think the ability to maintain them long term. It's there are people coming and going. I'm ready for that stability in that
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Beautiful. So let's see what the spirit elements have to say about friendship.
Dear and love, be gentle with yourself. You heal with the power of love. See the light in all things and acknowledge your self-worth and grace.
It's actually beautiful because do you know the term fawning?
In psychology,
Yeah.
I forgot which one that
It's
is.
basically people pleasing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fawn is a baby deer, like Bambi, and fawning means it's a trauma response to stress, where basically you close your heart and you become like a nice dead person, and you don't express yourself authentically. You're basically a zombie kind of walking around and just doing what the mind tells you what is expected, like, okay, I should do this now, I should do that. So that is fawning. And then the deer is kind of the grown-up version of the fawn. And I used to fawn all my freaking childhood. Like, people pleasing was my survival mechanism, uh, in order to, yeah, sustain myself, to dodge bullets all the time, basically, from teachers, from also in my family, and also from peers. So I love that as a summary of that whole talk today. Yeah, and being gentle with myself is, Fari actually keeps telling me that I should be more gentle with myself. Healing through the power of love, which is why we do this podcast actually in the first place. See the light in all things, acknowledging your self-worth and grace. Beautiful card. Well, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me and inviting me back.
Yeah, I'm so happy that this is still recording. So we made it, second attempt. So again, everyone, if you haven't subscribed already, there's a button somewhere there. If you like this, give it a thumbs up. Again, your comments are much appreciated. Hope to see you in the next one. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Much love, and hope to see you soon.